Hey guys, Matt, Trainroomgary 43. In today's video, I have a video request that was requested by Trainroomgary, and he is contemplating adding the legacy command set to his railroad. And he asked me about the black writable module. That is this right here. Let me pull it out so you guys can see it. This is it right here, and he wanted to know what you do with this. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video, so let's see what this can do. Okay, so the Writable module in conjunction with the legacy system utility computer program will allow you to do a lot of really cool things on the Writable module. And some of those things include doing cab and base updates for new software revisions that come out, which is pretty cool. You can also back up and restore the base off of this here, which is pretty cool. And another thing you can do, and the reason really why I got it, was so you can make a multi-engine module, which is really cool, and I'll explain more about that in a few minutes. But first we'll talk about connecting the base up to the computer, and then we will take a look at the application. Okay, so before I get going with the computer program and all that, I want to tell you guys how to wire the base to the computer, and we're talking about the legacy base here. So you can either do it one of two ways. You can either do it wired with a serial cable like I have here. This end here just connects to the back of the legacy base, and then the USB end, if you're using a laptop like I am, you would probably need a USB connection. But that end would just go to the computer and then they will link up. But another way you can do it if you want is you can use the Wi-Fi module right here. Now, I have not had luck using the Wi-Fi module. I like using the serial cable better, just my personal opinion, but you can use whatever you want. So I'm going to hook this up and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have everything connected. We have the serial cable connected to the base, and we have the module inside the base. So now we can go ahead and get rolling on the computer and take a look at what this module can do in detail. Okay, first off, before we get going, I just want to apologize for the quality of this particular scene here when we're going to be doing the work on the computer. My screen recorder does not work very well. It works, it's just that when I try to use this program, it's really blurry and stuff, so I'm just recording the screen with my phone. So as you guys can see here, we have the main screen of the program, and one of the main features here on the home screen is that you can make a remote and a base module for updates that come out, which is pretty cool. And then here's where you can restore and back up the base, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to let it back up. And this is really handy, especially if, let's say, your base is acting up and you think that a restore would be needed on it from factory settings. So you can do that, but before you do that, you could always back up the base so that way all your engines and all your settings and stuff are still in the base. Then you can do your resets, and then you can restore from the backup that we're making right now, and everything would be back to normal with just a couple clicks. Now, I've just backed up my base. I've never restored it from this, so I don't know how reliable it is. So if anyone knows, please let me know. So as you guys can see, it's almost done. So there we go there. So we'll go ahead and save it, and it says successfully saved. So there we go. So next we'll move into the engines. Zoom in a little bit. So here we have the engine tab here. And as you guys can see, we have engine 17 loaded up, which is my C420, and it automatically defaults to the lowest engine spot being used. So I can scroll through this if I want, and you guys can see all my engines in here. And that's that. So one thing I do want to tell you guys though is, as you guys can see, the show active engines is checked. And that means only the numbers that are being used. So if I was to, let's say, scroll to one that's not being used, or scroll after one, as you guys can see, these here are not being used. So if you click off of that, it'll show all the ones that aren't being used. So I just go to show all the active ones, and then here they come. So I clicked on one. This is the Burlington F3s that I have. And you can see we have the name here, and you can change this if you want. We have the road number, and then we have the type, the control type, locomotive type, and the sound type. And those are essentially what the info button does on the remote. So, excuse all the creaking and stuff. So if I was to pull up that engine on the remote, hit info, you can see we have our type, the control, and the sound type, and they match what's on here. And of course I can change these if I want. It's kind of pointless to do, but you could if you want. And then down here we have the touchscreen icons. So currently it's set for Mars Light and Rule 17, and there they are on the touchpad of the remote. So that's pretty cool, but I can of course change these if I want. So let's say I wanted to change it. Let's say I'll change it to hazard lights and ground lights. So I click Save Changes. As you can see, it's changing it, and there it is. So now if I go on the remote, you can see they're changed. Now, one thing, you can play around with this all you want, but one thing that you should know is that these buttons here, unless the engine has the feature that you change the lighting option to, it won't grow it. So if I was to click on one of these for the hazard lights, nothing would happen on the engine. They would just do nothing. And same thing with the ground lights. So I can of course go back and change it back to what it was. So I click Save Changes, and then it's back to the way it was. Pretty cool. And one final thing I'll tell you guys about is the engine modules here, which is the reason why, again, I got the Writable module. We can make a single engine module, which that basically is the orange modules that already come with the legacy trains when you buy them. So that's really not needed, but I guess if you wanted a second one or something like that, you could do that. But we're going to make a multi-engine module, so we're going to click on that. And engine module written. So now all of the engines that are in here are loaded up, which is pretty cool. And that takes care of the trains, or the engines. So now we're going to trains. And these are your lash ups. You can see the engines that are a part of that train. And basically same story with the trains as it is for engines. You can put the name and all that stuff in there if you want. Pretty cool. And then I'm going to slide over to base because I don't have any accessory switches or routes. So you can see the name and the software code on there, which is pretty nice. So that basically takes care of all the computer stuff. So now we'll go back to the remote and we'll talk about the multi-engine module. Okay, so I have everything back the way it was. So now we'll quickly talk about the multi-engine module. So I got the module loaded in my remote, although usually I keep it in the base, but to do the multi-engine module you need it in the remote. So now I'm just going to punch in a fake ID here because all my engines I actually own are in the module. I don't have any fake ones or anything like that. So I just punched in engine 9 and I have the module in the top of the remote. So hit info and you're going to hit the load button. And as you guys can see here, it says LSU module, and in this particular case it pulled up the C420 first, and we can load engine data if we want. But since this is a multi-engine, we can just use the scroll wheel, and all the engines are in here. So if I can just pick one, and it's just like loading a regular module, except there's more than one engine in there. So now you can see I put in the Penske GP7, and here's all the icons for that, and that's that. So I'm just going to delete this here, but that's just an example of doing something like that, which is pretty cool. So I hope that answered your question, Gary. Like I said, he wanted to see a video on this, so I hope that answered what you wanted to see. If it didn't, though, I will link in the description a couple pages from Lionel. I'll link a video that they did, and I'll also link the product page for the module so you can learn more about it, and same with all you guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Matt, Trainroomgary 43. You guys have a great one.